On this week's Emily Now episode, I'll be talking about renovating your commercial space. When should you consider land financing? I'll walk you through how a business was able to buy 3 pieces of land to expand their business and the benefits that they're seeing from it. And the age-old question of should you own or rent your commercial property? Stay tuned. My name is Dylan Gallagher, founder of emilynow.ca. I've been a finance guy for the past 18 years, helping people make decisions about the money that they borrow. And every week I put together this Emily Now episode to help you understand how to do more. I believe that if you have the answers to the questions about how do you borrow money, what should you know about borrowing money, that you can do more. And that's going to look like saving for the future, investing in new opportunities, or maybe giving back to the community around you. And as well, we have a platform, emilynow.ca, where you can sort out your mortgage and loan questions, get prepared to be approved. And so these Emily Now episodes will help you when you get there so that you can have a point of reference for understanding some of the things that you're seeing. So you can follow us on Twitter, Emily Now Canada. You can like us on Facebook. You can +1 us on Google. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. We're out there somewhere, so it would be great to connect with you and to get your feedback and your questions as well so that we can help you do more. Every episode we answer a couple of questions, and so let's get started with this week's first question, which is, can I finance renovations to my commercial space? The answer is yes, you can. It's called tenant improvement financing. Some people say, well, if I own my space, then I understand that I could probably finance some improvements to it. But what if I lease it? Can I finance improvements to my leased space? And the answer is yes, you can. Banks and lenders will provide you with term financing for that. So they'll typically give you financing, but you have to repay it over 5, 6, or maybe 7 years. The interest rates can be very competitive, so low single digits. You can get prime plus maybe 2 or 3% on that to improve your space. And so, yeah, you can finance improvements to your commercial space every day of the week. The criteria will be that you have to demonstrate that your business obviously has the cash flow to make those payments, and your business is going to have to meet some criteria in terms of equity and sort of general creditworthiness. But the short answer is yes, you can finance improvements to your commercial property. And of course, you can visit emilynow.ca, where you can get those answers on what that might look like. Moving along to our second question, we have someone that asked us about when should I consider financing land? And that's a tough one. Land, if you've watched any of these episodes, you may have heard me talk in the past that land can actually be really hard to finance because generally speaking, land is an asset that doesn't produce any kind of income. And so if you have if a bank is looking at financing a building or land, with a building, at least the bank knows that if anything were to go wrong, the building could be sold, could be rented out to produce income, and there's a better opportunity to realize on some value than a piece of land, which typically doesn't produce any value unless it's being worked or farmed or something like that. So here's what you need to know about financing land. You're going to have more equity than you would have had if you were buying a building. So you're going to need, maybe 50% down or more, and you're going to have to make sure that you've got the income to make the payments. When you have a building, an investment property that you're looking to buy, many times there's rental income that can make the payments, and so when you're financing land, that isn't necessarily available, so you're going to want to make sure that your business has the ability to make those payments. But there's a couple of things that you might want to consider if land is on your horizon somewhere. You can purchase some land because maybe you want to build on it later. Maybe your business is expanding and you see a really good deal, and so you want to capitalize on that deal, take that, purchase that piece of land knowing that in the future you're going to end up putting a building on it. Maybe a parcel of land can be complementary to your business, so maybe you need extra storage space, or maybe you need extra yard space, or maybe there's a different use case for why you want to buy that piece of land. But in either case, the point would be make sure that you've got a plan. Don't buy the land just to hold it because you think it's a good deal but you don't really have a use for it. Make sure, as always, make sure that you've got a plan, you know how you're going to pay for it, and ultimately you know how you're going to use it. And because land doesn't generally produce income, take some time to think about how could you turn this piece of land into something that's actually going to generate some income. That's probably the most important question that you're going to want to ask. So anyway, you can visit emilynow.ca as well to find out what it might look like if you were looking to finance land. Earlier this year, we helped a client buy 2 parcels of land for their business, and just before the summer helped them purchase a 3rd parcel using emilynow.ca. We put a deal package together, got it out to the lenders in the marketplace who used emilynow.ca to reply back to the client, but ultimately we were able to help this client get these 3 parcels of land, and the business had outgrown its primary space. They're in the vehicle business, and so they needed 2 things. They needed a place to have a shop, a bigger shop, because the shop that was attached to their primary real estate was just too small, and they weren't able to put as much business through as was coming in the door. And the second thing that they needed is they needed storage space for all of their excess inventory, plus some of their client business as well. And so these 3 parcels of land were meant to accommodate that. So the primary real estate now has been renovated, and they're now able to use the entire piece of real estate to service all their new customers, and it's primarily used just for sales. And then these other parcels of land are now used to as a shop for maintenance purposes, the 2 parcels, and then the 3rd parcel is used now for storage. So this particular business, because in the first case the business owner had found these properties through a court order, he had to close quickly, so he used private financing for that. And in the parcel before the summer, same sort of thing. A parcel of land had come up, it was a private sale, he pulled the trigger on it and used private financing to close it because he didn't have enough time to line up traditional financing. Subsequent to both of those closings, the borrower has now engaged emilynow.ca. We were able to find him traditional refinancing packages for both of those parcels. And you know, there's an example of a business owner that knew his business really well, had a line of sight to what it was going to take to expand. When those opportunities came up, he pulled the trigger. He paid a private lender to just get it done, but ultimately didn't use that money for very long and was able to then take out the private financing with traditional financing. And so, you know, you might find that if you run a business and you're bumping up against not having enough space or not having the space that ultimately you want, by keeping your eyes open and knowing what your options are, you might be surprised at how quickly deals can come together and how you can make these things happen. And so if you're like this business owner, maybe visit emilynow.ca, get prepared so that you know what the math is going to look like, and when that opportunity pops up, be in a position to take advantage of it. The age-old question of owning versus renting your commercial space, and I thought I'd give some opinion here on which is better or which is worse. And this doesn't just apply to commercial financing, this could also apply to owning your own home. But one of the things to do, or a couple of things to consider, take a look at currently what you're paying for a lease. If you're renting your space or you're renting your home, take a look at what the cost of renting is. And then if you're a business, take a look at your business plan and see what do the next, I don't know, maybe 5 or 7 years look like. And if they look good, if they look like, you know, we think business is going to be fairly stable, even if the economy bounces a little bit, we still think we can hold the line. Take a look at your business. If you think your business might grow, buying might make sense. If you think your business is going to be fluid and you can't really get a sense of how big you're going to be, how many people, how much space you're going to need, then leasing might make sense. Really, this is an exercise, though, in understanding I'm going to be spending money for the next several years. What's the best way to spend it? Do I spend it on building equity into an asset, and is the cost of interest exceeding the increase in value? Or if I'm going to spend this amount of cash, am I just better off to use the space, i.e. lease it or rent it, because we're just uncertain about what our world is going to look like, and so it's probably easier to do that. So the question is really one of what's the best use for the cash I inevitably have to spend, and what is the result that I'm hoping for at the end of the day. And that's usually a good place to figure out, should I rent or should I buy? For most business owners who are on the other side of their career, they've built a business, they've done fairly well, they start considering things like, well, instead of, as I leave the business, as I exit the business, I don't want to just take all the cash out through a dividend to finance my retirement, but maybe if I know I'm going to be retiring or exiting the business in the next 5 or 10 years, maybe the business could buy a piece of real estate today, and then as life goes on, instead of making lease payments, the business can just start giving me the lease payment. So I'll own the building, I'll lease it back to the business, and then as I hit retirement, instead of taking net income out of the business, I can just take the lease revenue and have that finance my retirement. So that's sort of one strategy or one example that helps you consider, should I rent or should I own my commercial space? And again, it's an exercise in, if I have to spend the money, what's the best way to spend it and what result do I want to see out of it? And if you want to see what financing might look like in that context, if you're looking to buy a space, I'd encourage you to visit emilynow.ca. That's it for this Emily Now episode. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week when we continue talking about mortgages and loans and how you can do more.